Truth. What is the nature of truth? I think that truth is complex. I think that truth, obviously, well, I don't think, I know, truth is time dependent often. Okay? You see these railroad tracks. These railroad tracks guide a train and merchandise from point A to point B. It stays within the line, stays within the rails, the gauge, 4 feet, 8.5 inch gauge. And the train is guided to its destination. The pursuit of truth, not with everybody, but for most, guides them like these rails. However, there are many different pyramids that each individual controls that seeks to control you for their benefit. And so therefore, the nature of truth becomes critical. It's not bounded. It's not bounded and simplistic as, it is, but that's one aspect of truth. Like I say, there's some ties sitting there. There's a truth to that. You can see that there's ties sitting there. However, each tie has its own angle, its own orientation. You could sit here and measure these ties into infinity, going for the truth. You can generally say there are ties stacked here. That's true. You could count the number of ties. You could count the number of inches from like the front face of one tie to the back face of another tie. You could figure out the measurement from here to here, or from here to here. But you could even get more accurate than that. You want to talk about Zeno's paradox. Get down to the accuracy of this to the 100th of an inch. How long will it take you to arrive at that truth? See, truth has a resolution. Truth has a very deep resolution. Just like physical matter, okay? We study the universe. We studied atoms, right? This rail is composed of atoms. These ties are composed of atoms. And those atoms are composed of quarks. We call them up-down quarks. 2 down, 1 up, you're a neutron, right? 2 up, 1 down, you're a proton. And then there's electrons, right? A cloud of electrons surrounding that nucleus of that atom. But however, if you attempt to increase the resolution of your knowledge of the subatomic world, you're going to hit limitations. I mean, you go down to the Planck scale, and it would require enormous energy, and there's quantum jitters. You will find quantum jitters at that level, and then the Heisenberg uncertainty principle will kick in. Okay, so back to the ties. In order to know the truth about these ties, there's a lot of knowledge that could approach infinity. In other words, in order to know these ties at a very, very high resolution, you would have to obtain information that's approaching infinity, let alone how many different ways these ties on the large scale could be stacked across the multiverse. Let's say this rail line was built in 1852, I believe. And so let's say nothing was different about the history of this railroad. The order of the rail cars on every train that's ever traversed this line since 1852. And that's a lot of trains, okay? The order of the rail cars on every one of those trains. I mean, you're talking factorial numbers that are larger than the seconds in the entire universe. Let's say there's 1 million freight cars, okay? And you make up a 100-car train. Imagine 1 million factorial. I mean, the numbers are staggering. Now imagine ignoring that this line exists exactly as it always has existed. That tie plate is tossed into that exact position. Those beer cans are exactly the same. Everything. But now we're going to leave all the same, and then we're going to arrange these ties in every possible permutation. It would be infinite. Everything, even the way those trees behind this are growing, the way the weeds are, the different shades of the leaves, all of that stays the same. Okay? But yet, we're going to stack these ties in every way possible, every permutation possible. You will hit infinity, absolute infinity. Okay? So truth, back to truth. Truth is deep. Humans like to simplify truth. Now, I talked about I talked about pyramids. Okay? You've heard the term pyramid scheme. It's where you get people to serve you. Religions do it. Politicians do it. It's like you claim to have the truth, and you make people subservient to you because you own your little pyramid, your own little pyramid out of the sea of reality. Maybe, the Protestant, or let's say some cult. Okay, let's say, what was his name? The Branch Davidians. He started his own little pyramid where he's at the top. And he claimed to have truth. And all these people didn't bother to look at the resolution of the truth that he was talking about. They didn't bother to discriminate the falsehoods that were intermingled with those grains of truth. So what is my point? I'm saying that every ideological, whether it be a political ideology, a political theory, a religious theory, must be infused with falsehood. Okay? So in other words, grains of truth are diluted with falsehood. Because, like a physical object, if I wish to break a window, I'm not going to throw a feather at a window. I want to throw a rock or a piece of steel. A piece of steel would just absolutely shatter that window. Why is that? Because it has more mass. Why has it got more mass? Because it's made of heavier atoms. Okay? It's dense. It's heavy. So in other words, to influence people, one must construct a form of mass to get their attention and get them into action. And what I argue is if you get down to the resolution of that truth, you will find falsehood. And it's the extent of that falsehood that we should pay attention to. Because truth is diluted. just like your knowledge of this universe will be diluted. Your particular course here, your particular mission here, it's going to be found in individual puzzles that you may have to find, things that you become preoccupied with. What are some deep numbers in those things? What are some deep facts in those things? How do they connect to you? Where are your synchronicities? The problem is that the world is like these tracks. It's about controlling people because that's where power comes from. It's about directing people within the rails, these rails in a figurative way. You are directing the masses to behave how you want them to behave because you've constructed an ideological construct that is going to be constructed of falsehood. It just has to be. It's like a physical law. So here's an introduction. I'm going to have many videos and thoughts on my view of truth and the resolution of truth. So stay tuned. And this was just an introduction. Peace out.